My name's Alison King. I'm one of the careers consultants here at Brunel University. I'm going to give a short talk now about assessment centres and improving your chances of success. Okay, so let's have a look at what assessment centres can include. So they can include group exercises such as a task that you all have to complete together, a discussion or a role play. You often get asked to give a presentation that obviously may well be an interview as part of the assessment centre, but there may not be. And as well as the things that you would expect, there are also the social activities. You may not think you're being assessed during a social activity. Unfortunately, you probably are. So do bear that in mind when you go to an assessment centre. So let's have a look at tips for group exercises. First of all, remember that it's quality of what you say, not the quantity of what you say. So make sure that what you do say makes sense and helps towards the general task that you've been asked to complete. Make sure you listen. It isn't just about speaking, it's making sure that you take part and you listen to other people's ideas and you build on them if you can. That would be really good. Through your body language, you can show that you're listening to other people's ideas. So look at the people as they're speaking to you. Make sure you turn your body so that you're making sure that you're including everybody through both the way your body is positioned and through the eye contact that you're making. Include the quieter members. Remember that you don't have to dominate this. You have to show that you're a good collaborative team player. So if somebody's not speaking, ask them directly if they've got a point that they would like to make or there's anything that they would like to add. Watch the time. Remember that most group exercises are timed. You will have a time limit. You can choose to be the timekeeper, in which case at the beginning of the exercise you should say, I don't mind keeping the time, take your watch off, have a look at your phone, make sure that you put the time on it, but don't just be the timekeeper, you must contribute to the task as well. And don't be put off by a domineering person. Unfortunately, you do get this within group exercises. So what can happen is that one person will just do all the talking. Now you have to be polite, but you have to be firm and say, excuse me, I think somebody else or some other people have got a point to be made here. So can we just try and get somebody else's point of view across, please? That's the tips for what you should do. Now, what shouldn't you do in a group exercise? Withdraw your attention. In other words, be focused. You really must pay attention to what everybody else is saying so that you can build on their ideas or argue with them if you disagree. But don't get bogged down in little minute details. You really want to focus on the main task in hand and remember that time limit. You probably have got a group decision to have come to by the end or a task to have completed. Make sure you focus on that main task and not on minute details that don't matter. Don't be silent. You can't be assessed if you're silent. So you must say something, even if it is asking somebody else to expand on their point of view or to talk further about something that they themselves have suggested. Don't be rude though. These are the normal etiquette rules of human interaction. Don't ignore others. Don't interrupt them either. And finally, don't dominate like our person on the right there. Be the person who is a collaborative team player. Don't forget that you may all pass the group exercise. It is possible that you will all get through the assessment centre. It may not be as competitive as you think it is, depending on the number of job vacancies that particular employer has. Moving on, so presentation tips. Sometimes you are told in advance that you're going to have to give a presentation in an assessment centre. If that's the case, practice it. Make sure that you come to see one of the careers consultants here at the Brunel Careers Centre and you can practice in front of one of us. Practice on your own in the room. You may feel a bit stupid, but it's really important that you do. Even if you don't get the topic before the day of the assessment centre, remember that with a presentation, the key is to speak it, don't read it. It's very, very easy to pick up somebody who's learned a presentation word for word. They don't use normal speech patterns. It doesn't sound as relaxed. So remember to speak it. Use bullet points. Don't write it out in full. We all get very nervous sometimes before we give a presentation, especially at assessment centres. But remember your body language. Body language conveys confidence. So stand up straight, smile, look at people in the eyes, make lots of eye contact as well, so that you can show that you're confident even if inside you don't necessarily feel it. And when planning it, make sure that you keep to a simple structure. I've put a simple one on the screen here for you. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you've told them. That's a very basic 3-part structure, but remember that. Have a structure in mind before you start speaking so that you know where you're going and what your last point is going to be. Okay, moving on, finally, social activities. Now, sometimes we assume that we are not being assessed when we're having the coffee break, the lunch break, or drinks at the end of an assessment centre. Unfortunately, that's not the case. You are still being assessed. Make sure that you pay attention. So when people are speaking to you, listen to them. I know that sounds ridiculous, but when we're nervous, we sometimes don't pay attention. So listen to people, pay attention, and know the organisation so that when you are talking to somebody who works for that employer, you know what they do, you know a little bit about the business that organisation is involved in, so you can ask appropriate questions. Now, inappropriate questions would be asking someone about their personal life, something that you don't know they might not be happy talking about. If they themselves raise something about their personal life, that's fine. But on the whole, you should try to stick to questions about what that person does within the organisation and the organisation itself. The sort of questions you would ask at the end of the interview. That's a good thing to have prepared for the social activities. Oh, and by the way, there are some pictures on the screen of people drinking. I probably wouldn't advise you having a drink. If there's a drink session at the end of the day, a small glass of wine or a small beer may be okay, but I've seen so many students come unstuck. They're having a glass of wine and suddenly revealing lots of information they didn't want the employer to know about themselves for the rest of the day. So just watch out for alcohol. And that's it. Oh yes, sorry, my last bit of advice from the Barocca advert. Be yourself, so natural, true to yourself, but on a good day. So a day when you're performing really, really well. That's what we want to see at an assessment centre. Okay, so if you'd like further help with assessment centres, the careers section of the PDC website has got lots of useful information that you'll find helpful. In the CVs, applications and interviews section, there is the assessment centres section. So if we look at that, you will see there's lots of information about generally preparing for assessment centres, and then very usefully they've got a section about different group activities, different sections about individual exercises, which I haven't talked about too much in this presentation. So you might well find that's a useful section to go at. And also there's nice links here to employers and other websites that will give you further information about how you prepare for an assessment centre. So do have a look at that, as well as coming to see your careers consultant before you go to an assessment centre.